Means the US push for a global minimum corporate tax. So he's pushing for a global minimum corporate tax may help India, but it can also cause international disagreements. This is also, yeah, when that global minimum corporate tax is came, automatically there will be some international disagreements will be occur, because somehow it's going to be done and somehow it's not going to be done. So according to their agreements, that will be can be the disagreements. Okay, so this is international disagreements. So this is here he mentioned this one. So US is suppose if US push for global minimum corporate tax, it will be affecting. Okay, so now move on. This topic is that, okay, now okay, 1 minute, sorry. So the pillar, so okay, the pillar 2, okay, now going to this topic. This topic is the pillar 2 proposal was the pillar 2 proposal, okay, was the organization for economic cooperation and development. So that is OECD, that means OECD, okay, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, plan to plug the remaining base erosion and profit shifting, that is BEPS. Okay, this is BEPS and OECD. Okay, OECD, this is all about OECD. And this BEPS, that means base erosion and profit shifting, base erosion and profit shifting. Okay, base erosion and profit shifting is issues and provide jurisdiction the right to tax back where other jurisdiction have either not exercised their primary taxing right or yeah, okay. So jurisdiction have BEPS, okay, tax back where other jurisdiction have either not exercised their primary taxing right or have exercised it a low levels of effective taxation. So low effective at low levels of effective taxation. That means what is happening here is provide jurisdiction the right to tax back. Okay, if they come to if they allowed to take back the tax, then that will be the low levels of effective taxation. So after, of course, your taxation will be effective more. Okay, so that is he is saying that. So for that, and okay, tax the MO intends to achieve minimum effective taxation of more than 10%, possibly up to 15%, given the latest proposal put forward by the United States. The objective is to minimize the tax incentives and ensure that companies choose to be situated in particular country based on other commercial benefits. Okay, so on other commercial benefits. In its recent proposal, okay, so recent proposal is made. The US sought to impose a global minimum tax on foreign income earned by US corporations. So okay, so what is mean by it? The recent proposal, the US sought to impose a global minimum tax on foreign income earned by US corporations. The proposal is perhaps intended to disincentivize American companies from inverting their structures due to the increase in the US corporate tax rate. The proposal is similar to Pillar 2 except for the rate of the effective minimum tax, while the OECD was considering 10 to 12% rate. OECD is considered only 10 to 12% rate. The US proposed a 21%. US proposed 21%, but that OECD is proposed for only 10 to 12% only. So what will happen is this causes pushback from countries such as Ireland, which made a case for fiscal autonomy for smaller jurisdictions to compete with larger economies. Of course, it will automatically done. The US is now discussing a floor of 15% for the minimum tax rate, and despite the fact that it may have difficulty securing Congress support if the floor is too low. Even as 15%, it is unclear whether Ireland would agree given its 12.5% marginal rate, thereby impacting a European Union wide adoption of the 15% rate. Automatically European will get European Union EU, okay, EU will get 15% rate. Okay, so India has been part of the pillar 2 discussions and has not objected in principle to the proposal. The proposal, along with the increased tax bill for US companies, may benefit the Indian Revenue Department. The tax department might benefit even at a 10% rate, since the proposal would cover offshore structures set up by Indian companies. Pillar 2 acts as a set of controlled foreign corporation rules, where, for instance, if an Indian headquartered multinational corporation has an entity in Singapore or the Netherlands through which global operations are run, and its income from global operation is not taxed at an effective rate of 10% or 15%, then it can be taxed in India. The State of Taxes Justice Report of 2020, the State of Tax Justice Report of 2020 notes that India loses over 10 billion in tax revenue due to the use of offshore structures, particularly through investments made by Indian residents through Mauritius, Singapore and the Netherlands. This is supported by the overseas direct investment data from 2000 to 2021 published by the Reserve Bank of India, where the cumulative ODA for the period primarily went through Singapore, Mauritius, the US, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. Startups and large Indian conglomerates commonly use offshore structures for conducting global operations. Revenue from such operation is often retained offshore. Retained offshore. Where is that? Retained offshore. Offshore structures. The Mauritius, etc. Some notes that India loses over 10 billion in tax revenue due to the use of offshore structures. Of course, $10 billion. Some $10 billion dollars structure. $10 billion in tax revenue due to the use of offshore structures issues, particularly through investments made by Indian residents through Mauritius, Singapore and Netherlands. This is supported by the Overseas Direct Investment 2020-21 published by the Reserve Bank of India, where the cumulative ODI for the period of primarily went through Singapore, Mauritius, the US, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. And startups and large Indian conglomerates commonly use offshore structures for conducting global operations. Revenue from such operations is often retained offshore and not repatriated to India. Tax advantages incentivize such structures, due to which taxes on such income are not paid in India. Once these proposals are implemented, Indian companies would have to pay addition all taxes on their offshore structures to the extent that the effective rate of tax lower is the global minimum tax rate, etc. So tax rate, etc. Other major factors with the tax incentives neutralized countries may have to compete on other factors like better regulatory regimes, ease of doing business, access to global talent, and among others. The US proposal indicates that the country is pushing the OECD to swiftly achieve consensus on the global minimum tax rate, in the absence of which the US proposes to apply its domestic law version of Pillar 2 at a rate of 21%, which may now be 15%, and which may now be 50%. Several countries have taken a different approach to the rate of global minimum tax. While France and Germany have expressed support, the EU has raised concerns regarding the high rate proposed by the United States. Countries have stated that the proposal infringes upon their tax sovereignty and that the fight against unfair tax competition should not become a fight against competitive tax systems. So this is happened. Then 15% rate. The proposal, the fate of Pillar 2 will depend on whether this proposal is acceptable to other countries. The US appears keen on closing the negotiations around the 15% floor, which should also benefit India. Presumably, the remaining obstacles to gaining a consensus are the issues with Pillar 1. As economics struggle amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the necessity of encouraging trade and economic activity should be prioritized over disagreements on tax allocations, etc. So, tax allocations, etc. A tax-related trade war of for entrenchment or unilateral levies may further harm both global and national economies. So this is the conclusion, that a tax related trade war or entrenchment or of unilateral levies may further harm both global and national economies. Yes, because here the thing is, when tax structure get any reform or it's any changes, automatically other countries, some countries may have get benefits, some countries won't get that benefits. So automatically that paradox is came in between that global and national economies. So taxes should be tax structure should be reform by the acceptance of all the countries, global countries. So that is required for any tax reforms. So here this is the point of today's editorial analysis.